Simon, I'd love to get your thoughts on something that's working for you. Could be a strategy, could be a tool, tactic that's surprised you in terms of its positive results.
Thanks, Joe. I think the thing that I'm most excited about is the potential of what we call a creator economy. So we, as a content agency, over the years have been producing lots of content ourselves. And the development over the last few years is the emergence of independent creators. I'm excited about working with creators as part of campaigns on behalf of our clients. So there's a whole different way that you can work with creators. It could be that you're getting an independent creator to work on a brief, and then we're posting on a client's social channels. Or it could be what we call employee-generated content, where we're working with clients to find their internal creators and really lift their profiles and tell their stories. The interesting thing about working with creators is you get this level of authenticity that can be lacking with traditional corporate communications. That's really special. The hard part is you have to give up a bit of control if you're the client and the brand. It's more serendipitous in terms of what you get. But that's part of the magic. The exciting bit is when you brief something up to a creator and they come back and say, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's really interesting. It's a fascinating development in our market. When we started, you would remember, Joe, from working in content marketing, it was about attracting readers to your brand through content that you created. And it was based on your website. It could be your social platforms as well, but it was like about answering their questions and driving them to interact with your brand. Now we've shifted into what I call a platform era. Social media is dominant, platforms are dominant, and we have to work with the people who are native on those platforms. That's most often with creators.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was having a call literally 30 minutes ago about the same thing. I agree with you. I've been in content marketing for a while, and now companies have reached out to me as a quote unquote creator to help promote products and services. It's interesting to see both sides as someone who has been behind the scenes and now people are asking me to come in front of the camera. You know, interesting, but I agree. I think it is a good way to expand beyond their usual audience because in a way you're piggybacking or you're leveraging off a creator's audience as well as their stylistic. So you get two ways. You get authentic content they're creating and their audience. It's what win.
You've always been a creator. I was a creator when I was a journalist. It just wasn't called that back
Correct.
then. That's the heart of why I created the agency. And you're the same. I know you've always been creating, like a children's book you wrote, writing articles, this podcast. Don't be shy. You love being in front of the camera, don't you?
I don't. Funny thing, I would prefer to write, direct, and produce, but yeah, whatever pays the bills. I got kids to feed. I'm just kidding. I don't mind it sometimes, but yeah, I
think
agree.
it's working with creators.
Yes.
It's not just internet time, it's social media time. You're doing things as they happen. The 24-hour news cycle is shrinking. It's probably a 6-hour news cycle these days.
Someone that was asking me the same question during lunch, how long do these generally take? And I said, oh, it's pretty quick. Once you get the brief and you understand that, depending on the client, if they're pretty open, which I guess to have a good partnership, you have to be open with the creator and their ideas. It's really fast. We did one for a tech company and we did it within the whole end to end less than a week. And the rest of that was just a little bit back and forth in terms of tweaks, but it was very fast. So I think, yeah, speed is one thing that is an advantage because the creators are doing it on a regular basis. They know what works and they know how to do it quickly.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We are doing some work for World Art Dubai at the moment, which is a big event in April featuring artists and artworks. We're working with creators, producing reels as the event happens. And the comparison would be ordinarily covering an event or like that, you would do an event sizzle. So you'd have a crew and your producer and you'd go along and you film everything. Then depending on how quickly the client wanted it, you'd deliver something a few days or a week later, and that's the industry norm. And it would look like an event sizzle. Nothing wrong with that. That's what happens. But these creators are going to be producing 1 or 2 reels a day during the event. So it'll be going out in real time, and it won't just be there to promote the next one. People will be seeing it on their feeds and be able to say, hey, that's cool, and then go down there on the day.
Exactly. That works for 2 reasons. One, it breaks from the norm because most rules look almost identical. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. No offense to those who do it. That's one. And like you said, most of them are done post-event to produce it. If they use it at all, they use it once a year, and you're like, what do I do with it? But if you're creating it during the session, you're doing it live, you're doing it very quickly, it draws in new audience. You can get people butts in the seats, or you can get people coming to whatever you're doing that day, which I think is probably more impactful.
The thing that's really exciting for me is, aside from working with independent creators, we're predominantly a B2B agency working with employees of our clients,
Hmm.
doing employee generated content. They're becoming business influencers, nano influencers in their own right. And there's one that we work with where we're doing a podcast. It's a video podcast about thought leadership within the organization. The head of comms is the host of the podcast, just like you're hosting this podcast with
Nice.
me. And he's interviewing people like the senior leadership in this organization on a regular basis. So like once a month, and they're putting out quite a long form podcast. And I find it interesting. First of all, this guy lights up when he's on camera, and it's putting him at the center of the conversation. As head of comms, he would have been in the back room deciding how to say this and putting out the spokespeople. Now he's marshalling the troops and leading the charge. There's this concept they call a creator CEO. And it's the idea that those who have the natural abilities as a creator get better results. I've looked this up, not much research on that. I can only speak anecdotally. But if you take somebody like Elon Musk, for instance,
Yeah.
he's been selling stories long before he was selling cars and rockets and satellites and so forth. So if you think about Tesla, it was green mobility, carbon transition that shifted to driverless cars. Now it's humanoid robots. I don't want to take anything away from what he's achieved with Tesla, which is amazing. But there were times when the story was sustaining the share price. And it probably still is, especially with humanoid robots and driverless cars, because they're not quite there yet. And similarly with SpaceX going to Mars. So there's plenty of examples where you've got CEOs who are able to really, express the stories. Another one that comes to mind, Mark Andreessen, Andreessen Horowitz, the venture firm in Silicon Valley. He wrote a blog at the start of the pandemic. Now is the time to build. They even changed their tagline from "software is eating the world" to "building." It really captured the moment. They have more power these days because of the influence of platforms and the direct to audience link. The mass media is no longer an intermediary in these things, and people like Musk and Andreessen can just speak directly to their audience and interact with them.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. I'm a big believer in this. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I see those company post versus an individual post, even if it's a manager, it tends to outperform 10x. I know the specific stats. And I look at that, why that is. And a lot of it is we relate to people more than brands. If you like something, if you post something, I'm more likely to do that versus the company, et cetera, et cetera. I think because we naturally just gravitate to people. So I think that lends itself to what we're referring to when you talked about the creator economy and the creator CEO, that it's going to become more and more influential, more popular. I'm with you 110%. I believe in it wholeheartedly as someone who's been on both sides with you. Now, switching gears a little bit because I know everything can't be all golden
We
to
need some
you.
conflict.
One thing I always try to do is, what are some of the learnings for many of us who've been in it a long time? There's always things we experimented with that didn't quite go the way we wanted to. And so there's some takeaway from that. So is there anything that comes into mind, maybe something you've tried with or experimented that you're like, didn't quite work out, but still good lesson off the back of that?
I'm always trying things, and there's always things that are not working out. We're pretty lucky working in storytelling and content creation because there's a lot of experimentation. We can test things out. It's not like experimenting with a multi-million-dollar R&D budget or developing products. So we can try this and try that. The most recent one, which is a bit embarrassing to talk about, but I think it's useful, is we did this CGI brand reveal on Orchard Road, and I think it's Paragon, one of the big curved screen on Orchard Road. The camera just tilts up, and all of a sudden there's the click to view logo there, and a sheet pulls away into the air, and all of these balloons float up into the air, and digital. It fooled a lot of people. A lot of people looking like, how the hell did they do that? How can they even afford to have something up on Orchard Road? And
Yeah.
that's just a screen. It shouldn't have balloons. And then, of course, you realize, oh, it's CGI, right? So you fooled you. And that's the point of the thing. And it's to demonstrate our abilities as doing 3D animation and CGI and so forth.
Yeah.
So I obviously share this all around the place, clients and so forth. And we got something that we'd been wanting to get for a long time, which is like showing somebody something and they go, I want one of those.
Yeah.
And they just want that. And for me, that's a really pinnacle of achievement because you're not jumping through all the hoops of, oh, what should we do? Here's your 3 concept. They're just like, no, give me that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we did this and wanted a similar thing to promote an event. And we got all excited. And then we got into the typical creative process and so forth. But in trying to meet brand guidelines, we forgot the critical thing, which was we had to fool whoever was looking at it. It was a strong creative lesson because what we produced, the client wasn't happy with. She didn't fool me. There's no deception in this. The lesson to be learned is we got caught up in the technical and forgot the storytelling magic. You have to fool people in this particular thing. In the creative industries, you can get caught up in, oh, wow, look at what I'm able to do. And then you forget the fundamentals of storytelling, which are often simple. In this case, we obviously didn't come off in the end because there wasn't that surprise, that fooling thing. It was a really strong lesson for us and our creative team. No matter what magic we create, we've got to remember the basics. Good lesson, painful, but a good one nonetheless.
I appreciate you sharing that. It's like the magician showing the trick and then someone saying, you showed me the trick. What you said is salient to AI generated content, videos. Obviously, last year was all image. And to be honest, it's yes, you can create things probably faster than you probably could. But to your point, a lot of them lack storytelling. There's no message behind it. Just, oh, look at the weird stuff we can do with AI. And for me, it's become overwhelming and I'm just underwhelmed by a lot of it. Maybe it's just me. I'm just flooded with these images. So I think to your point, we see this all the time, chasing the shiny new bell without understanding the fundamentals behind it. So building the house and building this beautiful cascade and there's no roof essentially, or there's no foundations, there's no floor to it.
I agree with you. Humans are great at picking up things. You can really pick up very quickly now. Well, at least I feel like I can. I can identify like an AI generated image straight off the bat. And it, to my mind, it makes the, whatever it is, the post or something looks a bit lazy. And I think also it's overused. When drones first came out for a device that's maybe $1,000, we were able to get endless aerial shots, which would have previously cost us $5,000 to $10,000 an hour in a helicopter. So everything was footage for a while, but then you got bored of it. Everything doesn't need to be from the air. You wouldn't film a movie with everything as a close-up. AI is similar. Just because it's easy doesn't mean you need to use it. What I tell the team, our clients are paying for your judgment. AI can help streamline your processes, get work done quicker, whether that's in the creative process or just in the ideation process. But it shouldn't ever replace your judgment. That's the differentiator that will continue to add value.
I couldn't agree more. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I used to give a talk about using stock photos in social. It's just overwhelming. It doesn't work. It's all AI generated. The new stock photos, there's no feeling to it. It's a little bit lazy and it doesn't actually have the impact that I think the creator or whoever's doing it originally had into it. I'm with you on that. I think there are ways to use it more efficiently, but a lot of people use it to replace their brain and just put goobly glock all over and just say, hey, look at what I've done with AI. It took me 2 seconds. Wow. It's okay, great. But did it have any impact or story behind it?
I've had this reaction. ChatGPT came out. It was very easy to use as a tool to write with. I've become allergic to screens and started handwriting. I never used to do that. And I always joke that I wouldn't have ever, in the old days, pre-word processing, I never would have been able to make it as a journalist or a writer because handwriting was too slow for me. And since the last year and a half, I can't open a computer. I don't want to write on a computer. I want to write by hand. And that's not really an analog sort of nostalgia thing. It's just this sort of preference. And it's got something to do with AI writing tools. I'm not sure what it is, but I enjoy handwriting these days.
Yeah, I've always thought about, and maybe it's going too old school, but buy an old school typewriter. Like, Yeah,
Not sure I could do that.
yeah, I might be able to extreme it, but I think there's something beautiful about going back to the old way where it forces you to use your brain. I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I think it is an amazing tool and can be used very effectively. I also think it's making people not think and lazy, especially for creators. It's never been easier to copy and paste from ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. You see it all the time on social media. The question is it adding any value? Is it adding a personality? So I wrote about this morning actually how my post, just me, if I'm running late and I'm typing my phone, I'm putting out a post, just typing it out like this, outperforms 10x versus what I've just tested copying and pasting. There's something beautiful about these random thoughts spewing out from here that AI won't pick up because it's trying to give you something structured and formatted and tons of emojis. It goes back to your handwriting, is that it goes back to us using our brains, using our bodies in a way where we were probably meant to be versus getting everything fed to us. It's like that movie Wall-E, where it's dystopian
Yeah.
and they're just in their chairs. Pros, but those are some cons we don't necessarily talk about.
People want to interact with people. I have no problem consuming something from an AI that is really utilitarian,
Mm.
maybe updates on stock prices or something like
Yeah.
that. So it's really straightforward stuff. But if it comes to a book, I want to read a book that's written by a person because it's about the human experience. I guess if an AI was writing about what it's like to be an AI, that might be interesting. That's a totally new thing. That's interesting in itself. We've got a long way to run here. We could probably talk about this for hours.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to talk about both sides because obviously, once again, it is a powerful tool, but there are some limitations. The last question I always try to ask is you connect with a lot of people in content marketing, communications, and business. What's a key lesson that you've gleaned from, could be a peer, an influencer, a creator, doesn't matter, just someone that you've maybe interacted with personally or you maybe seen online that stuck with you recently?
I'm fortunate to meet fascinating people all the time, and I'm also consuming a lot of stuff. Two things have been particularly influential on me recently. One is I've been consuming a lot of podcasts about sleep, and sleep doctor called Matt Walker, who wrote Why We Sleep. That's been hugely influential for me in terms of like almost life-changing, because I wear this watch and it's been recording my sleep for years, but I wasn't looking at it. And when I listened to the podcast, he's talking about how much sleep you get and how bad for your health it is having, say, 6 hours or less sleep at night. So I go into Apple Health and I check what's my average sleeping time? 5 hours and 50 minutes for the last year. I have to get up really early because my daughter has an early bus. So I have to be up at 5:15 in the morning. So I've been going to bed since learning this at 8:30 and making sure I get my full 8 hours of sleep. I turn the air conditioning up to wear an eye mask to block light. And it's transformational. I feel healthier, stronger, and more switched on. I was pre-diabetic, but sleeping this long helps you control your fasting glucose. So I found out last week my fasting glucose is back within range, so I'm no longer pre-diabetic. It's like brilliant. And also it really helps anxiety levels. I pretty much had sort of low-level generalized anxiety all my life. And that seems to not gone away completely, but has disappeared to the point where it's like noticeable. I feel more chill, less on edge, and I'm not ruminating. That's been life-changing. The other one I just want to pay credit to is I've had it for the last year and a half. I've had a business coach, super helpful. Lots of coaching out there, and I've just been fortunate that I've been able to connect with Tripti Lokhan, who used to run VML in Asia. I can't express how great that experience has been working with her, and from really difficult stuff, complicated stuff. But I'll never forget the moment we figured out that I wasn't tracking net sales. I was counting my pass-through costs. And so I was like, for a whole period of time, I was tracking increasing revenue, but actually my net sales was flat. And it's something I could have figured out in about 15 minutes by just adjusting my budget spreadsheet. She said, you've got to track net sales. So all the decisions I've made for the last 12 months have been predicated on this idea that we've got increasing revenue, and actually we don't. Little things like that has changed the way I view the business, and made better able to make good decisions. And that process is still continuing. So that's been a really great game changer.
Awesome. I think it's good lessons. I was meeting with my former boss who sold his agency about a couple hours ago. So I think it does help to have people because we're one of those things where we're always in the business, always thinking about it, but sometimes we don't have the chance to look from the outside perspective, particularly someone who's been there, done that. It helps provide founders or CEOs with a different point of view. It helps us pick up on these little things that probably should have done. Sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, hopefully you've enjoyed today's session. It feels like Simon and I were old mates catching up, but hopefully you guys picked up some good insights on the things he's done well, creator economy, the things to keep in mind, the fundamentals of storytelling, and the importance of sleep and finding a business coach. So thank you so much for watching and listening today. If you enjoyed it, which I'm sure you did, feel free to share it with all your colleagues, your peers, and I'm sure they'll get a lot out of it too. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.